Agenda is the third reading of the alternate energy overlay district ordinance.
Third and final.
Well,
Reading.
this is not gonna be the final. If they follow my advice, which
Okay.
is,
Okay.
we need to have
I'll
three.
turn this over to Steve. Steve, you go ahead and say what you gave us information on.
Yes, I was asked earlier in the week, my opinion on whether we need to have further readings, since amendments, actually more amendments than I thought would happen, have occurred at both prior readings. So, just to be on the safe side, the code, I think it's pretty clear you gotta have at least a couple meetings where there's no changes. But to be on the safe side, my recommendation is we go until we have 3 straight meetings, and then that third one, with no changes, 3 straight meetings with no changes, the third one will be the final one.
With that, I will bring it to you two.
So first we need a motion to get this on the table, if we haven't.
Can I?
Sorry.
Something else first? Before we have this, my recommendation and my thought is, instead of continuing having readings after readings after readings, let's have more work sessions, so we have all that worked out ahead of time and not have to come back on a weekly basis and change things.
I think I can agree with that. As long as we're all, majority in concurrence with what's gonna happen in the way it should be.
So with that, Steve, procedurally, do we need to have a motion then to not have the third reading
Well-
today, and take a vote, or how does that go?
If everybody, we made the changes last week, so with the new one that's now, you voted on last week and you said, yes, we approve it. We can have a vote on that again this week, and if there's no changes, now we had our first reading done. And then we can have, but if you want to, just, you can take this off the agenda for today, third reading, by motion, just take that off. And if you wanna set up a work session again, go ahead.
I got a procedural question, cause I just knew. Last week, I voted to remove a section, 6.2.11.2, the second paragraph of that. Been thinking about that all week. My gut feel is a description in there is in there for good reason. It further defines the location and everything. I guess I'll make a motion to include the previously edited out. It's on me. I mean, I voted for it, but I've come back and thought about it and thinking about it. So I'm gonna make a motion to reinstall, for lack of better words, reinstate that couple paragraphs in there about alternate
Would that be a
energy.
motion to reconsider?
It's a motion to amend, so at this point, if that's what you're intending to do, you should just go ahead with a motion to take this off the agenda and then work on completing this ordinance. Make up your mind, so that when you come back, we're not gonna be doing readings and changing it every time.
I agree, but in this instance, I've thought about it and
No,
I have
and-
changed my mind, and
Yeah,
I
that's
guess that's my
understandable.
prerogative.
Yes, it is.
Is there a motion then to remove the third reading for the alternate energy overlay district ordinance off the table today and then I'll have another motion for a work session?
Okay, yeah, I'll make a motion to take this off the agenda for the day.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Any discussion?
Just what you said, Mark, so that we can set up a work session to make sure that we're all in consensus of what we wanna say and get that to the point
And-
where we're good.
With that in mind, I would like to get to the end of this, but if I didn't do this today, I'll always think I should have, and here I am.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of removing this from the agenda, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. We need to set up a work session. I know Steve, you're gonna be on next week some.
I will be gone all week. I won't be back in time for a meeting on Thursday, so I'll be back Friday if you wanna do something on Friday or the following week, whatever works. I
So
would like to
you're
suggest maybe,
looking at May sixth, I mean,
No.
excuse me, June sixth?
June sixth would work, and if we could tie that to, maybe a potential meeting with the HR folks, that would be great. Do a work session and maybe bring HR in and do a couple of things. Is that possible?
We have some things to discuss with Paul.
Sure, for
Well,
it.
then you guys have to contact Paul
We
and
will,
ask him.
We will, yeah. But I'm asking these guys if that would work for them in our discussion here.
That's the sixth one.
The sixth would work for me, I mean,
I will make it work. Morning of the sixth, okay.
We plan on 9 o'clock, and if it's unchanged, we will text you, and let you know ahead of time.
That sounds
nine
good.
AM, June sixth.
I don't think you need a motion for that, Mr.
You know,
Chairman.
we just understand for that.
Just make sure we post notice that we're gonna have that work session.
The next thing, for us, under our discussion, I've had some discussion and I've had some concern on how things are placed on our agenda. And I have told both of you that I don't feel that the chairman has any more power or any more, authority than anybody else of the three of us.
Agreed. I appreciate that.
So we
Yes.
have an understanding that we are not, all of us are not, taken by surprise. My thought is that procedurally, to have something placed on the agenda, anybody needs to talk to one of the supervisors and to okay it, the department heads included, and, go from there, and then the supervisor would contact Robin or the auditor's office to place it on the agenda.
I would agree with that.
Steve, we need to have that as a motion, then, I'm not, just an understanding.
Just
I'll put it on the
understand.
next agenda for you.
And,
Is that
an
okay?
Agenda item then for next time?
I don't think you need to,
Okay.
Just
just an
review.
understanding amongst the
Just an understanding.
supervisors.
And just so everybody's aware of that, I think that the reason for this is just to take the onus off of Robin. It's not Robin's responsibility to make sure that something gets on the agenda or taken it off unless it's gone through us. Cause I don't go to any other meeting, public health, for example, I don't go over and tell somebody to put a meeting on their agenda, or I don't go to Russ and say, hey, put this on the agenda, even though I might be on that team, you know, I've talked to somebody before I do that, rather than just thinking that I'm gonna get myself on the agenda without any previous knowledge of what's going on. So nobody's blindsided, we all have an understanding of what's gonna happen, and that way we can research it if we'd like to, or get more information, so we have a thorough understanding when we come to the meeting, and we don't have to prolong a conversation any more than necessary. Thoughts on that, Chad?
I got a question. If there's an issue that comes up and somebody wants to be on the agenda, or we think that it needs to be on the agenda, and how do we communicate amongst ourselves? Does that violate anything?
Just contact Robin, and Robin can be the go-between.
Robin, can let
You
them
know, if I know, if Steve's gonna be at a meeting out of state, I don't wanna set it for that meeting, cause I think he needs to be, as a member of the board, he needs to be here and hear that, so.
And you can contact each other to, you just have to be very careful.
To schedule
You
or-
can do like, ministerial things, such as just calling up, Steve, are you gonna be available on this date at this meeting? Yes, okay.
Okay.
I
But we
plan
can
on schedule something, and that's
So
it,
we
we
can
don't
send
go
them-
into a discussion about it, but
Yeah, but we can send an email to Robin and say, hey, we'd like to add a copy of it too.
I prefer, if you do copy everybody, don't respond, don't reply all.
Yeah.
There have been cases, not
Don't need to do
necessarily
that.
here in Iowa, but where an email chain where it included a sufficient number of board members on the email chain, that constituted an open meeting. So,
It just seems like it kinda hamstrings us if we are trying to schedule something, and, you know what I mean? Cause I definitely don't wanna be a violation of the open meeting type thing, but how do you orchestrate and facilitate and set a schedule for something if you can't communicate? You know what?
Mark, I just have one quick question. Routine things, would it be easier? Well, I'm gonna put a subdivision on the agenda, it's a pretty routine thing. That's something I can give to Robin, and she can show you guys, say, hey, this is what's on the agenda, or do you wanna hear from me directly every time I've
You
got
asked
some
me,
kind
are you
of
talking about the
material?
public, or are you talking about in-house?
Depending, we had, as Bob said earlier, use some common sense. I think there's the key right there.
If it's
If you have something like that, yes, Jake might have something for us, he needs to have a permit sign. Because I don't see that.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
I mean, I would assume that, I would hope, like, from my perspective, is that we would just keep doing
Yes.
the road department, because I have a lot of different
Yeah.
items that come up, but
That's okay.
I don't know if that would be the most efficient way for me to go through and say, okay, no.
No.
And I think
no,
you're
no,
adding a
no.
middle person in the thing, if there's no procedural problems,
it's
I would,
with it.
Procedurally, I think
County
you should
issues.
continue as you are.
that's all I
And
can.
the same way you have been, Joe, we know we see a subdivision, we know.
It's the
you-
routine matters,
routine.
don't
I just wanted
necessarily
to
need
clarify
to.
that, so we're all on the same page.
But I think to your point though, if it's a subdivision, I'd kinda like to know ahead of time, so I don't get somebody asking me a question about, have we looked at it, do we know what's going on, is there environmental health issues, or are they looking at septic systems, or does it fall within the city parameters, or is it in residential, in ag country? I'd like to be able to know that prior to coming to a meeting and seeing that on an agenda item.
Well,
I put the
hopefully-
agendas, I put your guys'
No, I
agendas
understand
and
that.
packets up there on Tuesday afternoon. So, I mean, that's 2 days before.
Yeah, but usually those are happening much more than 2 days before, but
But
that would be
for,
unusual.
but for that, Steve, it has gone through the channels with Joe before it ever becomes a subdivision to us. As far as being signed off by all the different departments.
No, I understand.
I mean,
just
but
don't
I understand that
understand.
you still don't see it, but I'm just saying, it has already been looked at procedurally.
Understand,
by those.
yeah, I just don't wanna be blindsided by something that's coming up.
But Robin, to your point, I think that advance information, the packet is spot
It's good.
on. I think that's very helpful. That way we can look at it, read through it, everything like that.
You probably wanna say, so look at the meetings minutes sooner, so I don't get last minute changes. Go ahead and say it.
No, like I said here, always everybody leaves.
Okay.
Any subcommittees by us? Subcommittee?
Yeah, I had a couple of subcommittees. I did go to Southeast Iowa Regional last week at a fairly extensive meeting. I mentioned a little bit about increasing rates for C-Bus, and that did happen, so the rates did go up. And they're gonna give us a final recommendation on the dollar value, so that will be reflected in the webpage that we talked about a little bit earlier. Another thing that did come up for me this week, and I wanted to share that with you two guys, is Rachel was here a little bit ago, and she did come in with a final agenda for us. Many of you know that I'm gonna be gone all of next week, and Mark just alluded to that just a few minutes ago. I am going with an entourage to Washington DC next week. There are 3 items that we're really talking about. One is infrastructure, the other is health, and then the other is really a core development within the southeastern Iowa community that ties back to the Department of Defense. So as some of you know, the Department of Defense is expanding their presence at the Burlington ammunition plant, Middletown actually, with over $1 billion of influx in the next 3 years if things go according to plan. And one of the items that is really important to Southeast Iowa, and this gets back to something that we were asked about, what are we doing to help promote growth within our community? One of the items that we're talking about is a high volume, high capacity natural gas line that we can tie into the Mount Pleasant community through Southeast Iowa here, because it's gonna be going from basically north of Washington, I'll pull that map up if y'all wanna see it, to Middletown, and we'd like to bring a trunk line over to us, a feeder line, so that we can have more volume of natural gas in the community, because we're in an energy deficit. So that's one of the items that we'll be talking about as well. So it's really those 3 items, but this is our agenda. So Mark and Chad, if you wanna look through that and see, we're gonna meet with Joni Ernst, obviously, Chuck Grassley. We'll also be talking with a couple of the other folks in our entourage. Marionette Melwin Meeks is on the list for us to meet with. And then Randy Feenstra will be on that list as well. And obviously, it's important to him to meet folks, because he's gonna be running for governor, so he wants to meet with as many folks as he can in Iowa and get his name out there, because he's really in the northwestern part of the state, so. If anybody has any questions, happy to answer that. So I'll be leaving here on Monday morning, coming back Thursday. I just had a flight change, so it was out of my control, so it'll be late Thursday afternoon. So, that's really it for me on plans and agenda and subcommittees.
Time for public comment.
I just had a quick question. On the work session, then how is that defined for interaction to work on the ordinance? Is it, because I thought the previous work sessions were like no interaction from the public, but how does that, I mean, what is a work session?
It's basically, we have to notice it up anytime there's a quorum of individuals on the board meeting together. So basically, when we call it a work session, this is just that chance for these guys to get together and have the discussion amongst themselves on what way they want to go, how are we going with this. So that's basically what the work session is, and we have to post it. It's different than a public hearing because we're not asking for public comments. We don't usually have a public comment section at the end of the work session. It's strictly to let them do some business amongst themselves. Because as you've heard a little bit, it's hard to communicate, for those guys to communicate about things. With a 3-person board, it's really hard. Because just one talking to the other now makes it an open meeting, if any county business is discussed. So that's why we have these work sessions.
Okay, I just always think of a work session meaning more than just 3 people
Right.
contributing, and it seems like,
The public can
Interaction.
sit in on that meeting.
Yeah.
but they can't talk.
You can send us emails.
Okay,
calls,
that, I
as you've
just,
done in the past, and you folks have
Yeah.
had a significant amount of input.
I tend to think
We
of
wouldn't be
works-
where we are without you, so obviously.
Always, I would
Realize that.
encourage people, if you're wanting to give input to supervisors, email them about it.
okay.
Um,
I
give
think
them
of work
phone
session,
calls,
yeah.
Yeah.
Work session and working group, I was
I
kind
think
of,
Steve's invited everybody to come by his house too, to,
Coffee,
don't-
coffee cake.
donuts in the morning,
Yeah.
cookies in the afternoon.
Brownies, I think.
Yeah, brownies.
Yeah.
Brownies.
No, I just was trying to figure out what a work session is and if it,
no, that's a good question.
it could encompass more than 3 people.
Sloppy
Hey,
joes at noon.
they switch over.
Bob?
Yeah, I was interested to notice your agenda there, Steve, when you're going to Washington. And I noticed the Energy Department.
Yes.
Gonna have meetings with them. It was an interesting article the other day on the paper that the last 73 days of Biden's administration, I think it was $96 billion
That's right.
was disseminated between energy companies and sources, and they didn't even have a plan, some of them. But it was disseminated out to them. And another thing, I wanna remind you, it's very important today, at 6 o'clock this evening, there's 46 souls that's going to be leaving our area on deployment. And a bunch of us are gonna ride, I think Chad's riding with us, we're gonna escort them on motorcycles to the Missouri state line. The parade route will be north on Walnut to East Washington, across Iris Road, take the first exit onto 218 South. We got 2 state troopers that's gonna work with us, the city police, fire department, and county sheriff's department. That's where your tax dollars are being spent tonight, guys. Appreciate it.
Good news.
There you go, Steve. Bike ride.
Brian?
I know this is a question you may not be able to answer it now. But Steve, you just talked about the pipeline, in your meetings, you're gonna talk about a gas pipeline going through. How would that go through? Is that gonna be eminent domain, or is that gonna be voluntary? Or is it using an already existing landline?
I don't know all those details, but I can't tell you exactly. That's some of the stuff will get answered, because it's all proposed at this point. The dollars have been projected but not allocated.
And then the final part of my time is I just wanted to do one quote from Charlie Kirk. I know most of you probably know who Charlie Kirk is. He's a conservative that goes to a lot of college campuses and debates the college students. So his quote is, "A reduction of government increases liberty and freedom." Close quote. Thank you.
Anybody else? Leland?
Yeah, going back to last year, when our county attorney dismissed all these charges against that crime family in Wayland, and then you guys approved outside counsel to defend that deputy, and then, here comes the county attorney in here scolding you, you can't do that, you broke the law, and I thought that was pretty unprofessional, but whatever. But anyhow, so I thought I'd do my part. I filed a complaint with the Attorney General about our county attorney, talked to state legislators, talked to the Attorney General personally and the governor, and I get the comment, you know, like, well, you want us to babysit Henry County and whatever. But anyhow, so now they passed this law, this new law, you can hire outside counsel. And I'm telling you, I'm pretty disappointed that my name isn't attached to that new law. I thought I really helped get that passed. And so, anyhow, so now the county attorney, he's whining about a waste of money. Good grief, who's been wasting money? We don't even know what they're doing over there. Now you're talking about a new ordinance to collect some fines and stuff. Well, who's gonna prosecute that? And I'd make a suggestion. Yeah, anytime you want a new ordinance, why don't you contact Henry County Watchmen? They're professionals at this. Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes?
I think I may be on the other spectrum with this gentleman, but I now know where I didn't know before, that the supervisors have little control over the county attorney because he's an elected official. But I did CC you on a letter that I sent the county attorney, and I just wanted to inform you, although there's little you can do, that I've not heard anything back.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are now adjourned.